Yo, what's poppin', everyone? We are Minds That Matter. I'm your girl, Tossie Janae Jones. We got my girl, Shamoni.
Hey, hey, hey.
And we also got my dog, Nicole.
What's up?
Yo, what's up, everyone? Our objective is to promote positive dialogue that encourages forward thinking. We're striving to encourage and empower individuals through collaborative discussion. We hope you guys enjoy our dope conversations and content. Let us know what you guys think and hit us up.
And if you guys like the content we're bringing, make sure you subscribe to us on all our social media platforms at Minds That Matter.
Yes. Again, as always, thank you to all our supporters who support us, who hit us up on our topics, and who chime in on the different discussions and polls that we post on our social media platforms. So today, we want to talk about a very deep topic that I guess is a very different, I don't want to say different issue. It's a deep subject to touch on. So sex workers are particularly vulnerable to sexual assault. It wasn't until recently that it got taken serious, where people started getting charged for it, because prostitutes are seen as commonly available to men and, as always, consenting to sex. And so the perception is to think that they're incapable of being raped. So we kind of want to get into that. We kind of want to discuss it. And then at the end of the episode, we also want to give you guys the new word of the week.
Dun, dun, dun.
She's excited about this word of the week.
Earlier, when I kind of got on the subject of vulnerability, I wanted to confirm that the context that I'm saying vulnerable.
Sorry, guys. I just actually was trying to think of something before we started the episode, and I could not think of what the acronym meant, so I had to let them know.
It was so random. I'm trying to be serious.
I know. Then it's like, oh, it's a serious topic.
I gotta really back. Okay, sex workers, escorts, prostitutes. The perception is that they're incapable of being raped and that they're vulnerable to sexual assault. My context for vulnerable, I'm saying, is susceptible to physical or emotional attack or harm. So, ladies, give me your perceptions on this topic.
Well,
we switching it up.
I never start first. I was looking at Shannon to see if she was going to get up in there, and she was like not looking at me on purpose, probably, so I can.
No, it wasn't that. You've been very eager to jump in. So
oh my God! Okay. So I would say that it is a myth that sex workers, prostitutes, escorts, 304s, whatever you want to call them, cannot be raped. First of all, anybody can be raped.
Right.
And if people don't kind of know what the definition of rape is, it's, pretty much forcing someone against their will to engage in some type of sexual act or intercourse or anything of that nature. But it's a myth, and I think it's a myth that needs to be kind of like
demolished.
Pretty much, because it's degrading to women and men in general. And I think that it's so common for people to think this because there's a whole attitude around rape and rape culture, which is pretty much like the normalizing of rape and sexual assault, and the societal attitudes towards gender and sexuality and how it relates to gender roles and things like that. So examples of that could be a woman was asking for it because she wore a short skirt, or she walked around naked, or she posted nude photos online. So she had to be asking for it. She wanted it, Other things could be just pretty much women who are drunk and they tend to, engage in stuff with men, but they get to a level where they can't really consent, and the men kind of continue to move forward. But they, when she was drunk, we were all drinking, we were having a good time. There's always some type of excuse as to why the assault happens. It's never the rapist. They never take accountability for their own actions. Of course, we've kind of seen this,
right,
in the news, media, TV shows, stuff like that. Or just in general, people say that prostitutes can't be raped because, it's what they do for a living. It's all they're pretty much here to
just sex.
Right, exactly. And, all of this kind of just dates back further and further to, you know, women being considered as objects and sexual beings and here to pretty much please a man. And, you know, that's their role. You know, women are supposed to look pretty and, you know, be available to do whatever men ask them to do. But I don't know. I think that we definitely need to like do away with all these myths and notions because they're incorrect. And it kind of further breeds the notion that women or like, I don't want, how should I put
I was going to say, what about men who get raped?
Yeah, I don't want to only say women, you know, so men definitely get raped also, but it's not the person, the victim or the survivor's fault, you know, in a say. So rape is pretty much like a power struggle. You know, people who rape someone often lack self-control, self-esteem, and things like that. And they tend to use rape as a form of control to dominate someone else. And oftentimes they choose people who they think are weak or vulnerable or, you know, someone that they know that they can overpower. They will probably never, ever try to rape somebody that would pretty much put up a fight or be a challenge because that does not, you know, fulfill their objective. They want to be superior to someone. And so that's kind of the whole how rape works. And often, sometimes it's really not even about the sex, like more than likely it's just about the power struggle. But I don't know, the whole idea that boys will be boys just kind of like solidifies that it's okay. Like, you know, oh, that's what men do, or, you know, it's not their fault. You know, they don't hold them accountable for their actions, and that's wrong. That's something that shouldn't be happening. And just because it furthers notions that women are sexual objects and men can get away with whatever they want. It's kind of like sexist in a way, and it's just, I don't know, the whole misogynistic culture is like bullshit.
Yeah, it fucking sucks, and you need to get a dick
right
and get away.
Right,
like totally. Exactly. No, I totally, I agree. I absolutely agree. I'll save mine for last. But Shannon, how do you feel about?
I think we're pretty much going to be aligned on this topic. Yeah. Just not even because we're women, just because morally we feel that it's wrong to overpower somebody. So, yeah, I would definitely say that you can't victimize somebody. How can I explain this? Because I had a hard time thinking of the right words just because of the society we live in now today. You have to be kind of aware of what you say and what you put into the atmosphere, even if it's not in the context that people mistake it for. Right. So I think, let me correct myself. I think that it is possible for prostitutes to be raped. Now, I don't think that it's all right for people to say like, oh, she wanted it, or oh, she caused this suggestive activity, or oh, she was walking around here naked, so of course I got hard, or whatever may have you, or just whatever the excuse may be. So no, I don't think it's right in any form or fashion. But I say but very loosely because it's I'm not even gonna go there. I'm gonna leave it at that because I feel like because I feel like that would take it on to a whole another topic, and I want to focus down on this topic. So go ahead, Tassie.
So what about the people who, I don't want to say the people who put themselves in these positions, because again, that puts the blame on the survivor or the victim. And a lot of people say that, which is why I bring this up. You know, well, she shouldn't have been out here doing this. But it just, as an example, like somebody minding their business, drunk somewhere, and you decide to come attack them.
Right. You know, it doesn't matter if they were in the alley being drunk. They were minding their business.
Exactly. So why did she, even if she was in a situation that opened her up to, you know, being attacked or harm, anything like that, but he or she was still minding their business. Now, the perpetrator, like, why aren't they held as accountable? You know, why is it never their fault? You know, like, why do we always have to hear the excuse or the fault being put on the opposite side, the person who was actually, you know, the survivor or the victim? You know, I don't know. I just think that everybody
It's always one-sided kind of, and then the person who actually committed the action isn't held accountable for their action.
Never. And then also too, you have to think in the context, like the society, the way it was structured on people who had broken foundations, as I always say. So how can someone with a broke foundation provide a solid platform for somebody else? It's not realistic. So I'm not making excuses for what they have done, but I'm saying realistically, you can't expect more from somebody if they don't know any better. And then two, we've lived in a misogynist society since the dawn of time. Like women were paid off in a sense to men for in marriage and things like that.
Sold. Even still to this day, women are sold.
Right. So it's
like slaves and wives and stuff.
Right, with dowries and different things like that. So it's to me, it's I don't think it's as far as fetched as we like to believe, because we live in like to believe we live in a progressive society now. But it's like originally we were founded on these whack ass ideas. So of course this isn't going to be prosecuted correctly, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think it's very difficult for people to like let go of gender roles. I think that we're doing a better job of it now, because the generations that are coming up, like the ends of our generations and those that are growing up now, are a lot more like fluid and open with things. And so I think that gender roles and societal like norms and views are kind of starting to be broken, but it's still very hard to like ultimately like let go of like the core of those roles, you know, and where they came from.
For some people, yes,
definitely for some people.
I feel like that's an excuse though. Like it's right or wrong. Like that's just
I'm definitely saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying you can't expect more from somebody who has a broken foundation. Like you had these older misogynistic men who built this constitution and these laws that these states go by.
Right.
And these haven't been changed for the dawn of time. They might be modified a little bit, but nothing's really changed.
Yeah.
So it still provides a breeding ground, like Nicole said, for this shit to happen.
And so when you say you can't really expect more from somebody who does not know better, I'm going to just give an example, and maybe if you can clarify if this is what you're talking about. Someone who was raped or molested as a child grows up to be a rapist or molester, like in that sense. So that's kind of what I don't want to say were taught, but that's what they were maybe taught or exposed to. And then from there, they grew up thinking that it was okay for them to do that. And for whatever reason, or they felt like, oh, this is what was done to me. This is the way of life. This is how this is how things are. So this is what I'm going to do. Like, is that what you mean? Like by like broken foundations and not knowing?
In that context and how you explain that scenario, yes, because that can go back to the R. Kelly situation. R. Kelly is a predator and he was also a victim. And because of him being victimized caused him to be a predator. I believe that wholeheartedly. That man needs some help. I don't care what nobody say. No, I understand he's black. Yeah. I understand. I'm not out here trying to bash no black man, because like I said before, I'm all about black love and progressive societies, especially as a black hole. But at the same time, it is what it is. He needs some help. And before you can completely rehabilitate him of that situation, he needs to face his issues. So in that instance, yes, I completely agree with you. Now I'm talking about as far as in the context of the lawmakers and how the laws were structured back in the day. Those men were taught in that era that they were all the end all be all.
They were superior to women, and that's why they had the power and ability to take advantage of them, because of the men in power.
Exactly. And I don't feel like the legislation nowadays has completely derailed that way of thinking. So it still provides a breeding ground for those negative thoughts to infiltrate the systems and the laws and the communities that we live in, ultimately, because that generation is now our grandparents and our parents' grandfathers and grandmothers. And nowadays, unfortunately, you have some grandparents raising their grandchildren.
Yeah.
So we're not completely rid of that generation to make the dramatic change that we need to make.
So how do we start making these dramatic changes? I mean, we can't kill off that generation. So
definitely not.
She's like, they still here. We wipe them clean.
Right. You know.
No, I don't think killing anybody is the answer. Let me go ahead and say that on record.
Right.
I'm not here for that. But
like changing legislation and people that we put in power, and you know what we choosing what to accept or what we allow to be portrayed to us in the media and what we choose to support. Like those are things that could like help change the way of thinking. Definitely.
And us also getting more involved in the lawmaking process. Because even me, I can admit that I'm definitely ignorant to a lot of party like views and stuff like that people go and vote on and different things like that. So in order
for it. If it's a politics, Nicole ain't got nothing to do with it.
I'll be in line. I'm a proud voter. I'm one of those people who immediately think of what our ancestors went through in order to allow us to have the opportunity to vote. I register to vote faithfully. Like I'm in line.
I'm registered, but I have like one of those.
I need my sticker. Give me my sticker.
I need my
right
here. So
sticker. I'll wait 3 hours to vote. I don't fucking care.
Woo! I don't know. I get you though. I get you. I think you know what. It's more than just voting. It's writing to the legislators and stuff. Like I had to do this for an assignment, and boy, was it fucking hell. Like
yeah.
And
you have to be very specific in what
you may or may not even get a response, you know, but the constantly trying and then you doing it and then having other people do it, you know, like, and, you know, we have power in numbers, you know.
Yeah. So and also following by example too. I think not even to cut you off, but just like if you think about the people who have influence now, they have the ability to shape a generation. Like, unfortunately, that's the truth. YouTube, the type of content that you put out, rappers, the type of content that you rap about. Like, if you rap about slapping a bitch and this, that, and third, then you're to these younger men and women who listen to this, you're okay in that.
Yeah, because now they're reflecting what they hear in your music.
Right. And they look to you faster than they look to their parents a lot of times. Because I know my mom had a handle on me, but if my friends was doing it, I thought it was cool. So, you know, I had to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, right. So, I definitely think as a whole, as a community, as a generation, we have a right and a divine order to teach and bring people up in the right manner. And that starts with having a conversation with your kids, man.
Yeah, it definitely starts in the household first. Yeah. Before we even get to the schools and the legislation and the media and the, you know, all that stuff, like propaganda, like it starts within the house and what you allow and what you don't allow, what you support and what you don't support. You know.
What was you saying, Tassie? Because we keep cutting you off.
Yeah, I'm like, y'all.
She's like, can I get a word in?
Girl, I'm like, we got to bring it back. Y'all going against like laws and not being brought up.
I know.
I forgot about the escorts and prostitutes.
Lord, you know how we get on tangents, boy.
I'm like, Lord. I want us to break down the definition of rape. So, rape is the unlawful sexual activity and usually sexual intercourse carried out forcibly or under threat of injury against a person's will. That's kind of what we were touching on. Yes. Or with a person who is beneath a certain age or incapable of valid consent because of mental illness, mental deficiency, intoxication, unconsciousness, or deception. Now, I understand where y'all coming from, where, you know, if you aren't aware and people haven't taught you and the way society has been brought up, then the imagery reflects how people's behavior is. I just break it down to right is right and wrong is wrong. Like,
and I mean, with that being said, like, if you weren't taught that rape is wrong, you rape somebody, okay, well, now you finna know the consequences is wrong and you finna be held accountable in my eyes. So, like, we're definitely on the same page. I just think that I do understand what Shannon was saying about some people, you know, don't know and, you know, X, Y, Z. But at the end of the day, like, you're going to learn today, you know?
And they say ignorance is bliss. So how can you hold somebody accountable for something if they're really ignorant to that topic?
That's so annoying.
Got to educate them.
It's annoying, but that's facts. That's right. I was listening to something and I can't remember what it is, but this man was talking about how one of his son's friends, and I'm going off on a tangent because I just need to put a point. I have to break this down, so I'm trying to unpack it. So This man was saying how one of his son's friends was driving his car and he got pulled over. Well, when the police went to look the man up in the system, he wasn't in the system because he didn't have any fingerprints. His mom didn't have him in the hospital. They never went to apply for him a social. They never went and got him fingerprinted. He doesn't have a license. He doesn't have a birth certificate. So essentially, he does not exist. But in his mind, he exists. So how are you going to tell him he don't exist? You see what I'm saying?
I think I understand where you're coming from, but that I feel like that the context is different. Like we started off with saying, are prostitutes incapable of being raped, to defending the attacker in a way, but being careful with our wording on not defending the attacker, because at the end of the day, the victim is the person we're supposed to, like, you know what I'm saying? I feel
morally, I think that it's wrong to rape anybody. Morally, that's how I feel.
But you're saying the subjective is to consider where the other person is coming from.
Exactly.
Because they may have not. I know. I hear you. I just think that's
morally, legally, the shit is wrong.
Everybody doesn't operate on the same moral compass as we do.
Yeah, I know.
But that's why we having these conversations, because motherfuckers need to know shit ain't right. Like,
absolutely
not right. And at what point are we gonna stop using like ignorance? You know, like ignorance essentially is like an excuse or becoming an excuse. Like
it is becoming an excuse. It's definitely
like, okay, well, like, educate yourself, educate somebody. Like, you know, we're not just going to pass that off as ignorance anymore. Like, you know, drop it.
If you don't know, you need to know or figure it out.
Right.
But why do you think people can get off on pleading insanity? Did you ever think about that?
Because everyone else is getting away with it.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is that's ignorance. They're pleading.
I mean, like, some people I think probably are really sick. There's some psychotic people out here in the world, but there are people who pretend and play that role because they know that what they did was wrong, and now they're trying to figure out how to get out of their shit. So they gonna play the game. It's not necessarily them being ignorant. They being shiesty. If anything, they not being accountable for their actions and willing to face the consequences like they should. You know, they playing.
I get all what you're saying, and I'm telling you, I agree with y'all wholeheartedly. But we have to in order for us to be objective, we have to
break down both sides to figure out what the situation is and how to conclude it. I hear you. I'm just thinking like,
she like, this is stupid as fuck.
That's just how I feel. Like, I don't. Okay, so like I told y'all about someone who I know was raped, right? And they broadcasted it live on social media, and they told their story. Now, this person, it was an escort and used the back page. And for those who don't know what back page is or was, it was like Craigslist X-rated. So you would be able to give donations, aka pay for sexual favors and meet up. Now, a lot of prostitutes and escorts loved Backpage because it was like a paper trail to their safety. Like if they were going to, be involved in this sexual activities like this, then they at least had some form of like security to know this is the last person I spoke to. This is where I was going at this time. But the FBI recently, like very recently, just took down the site. They're like, no, we don't approve of prostitution. We're turning this off. But anyways, she had that site available and was able to meet up with someone in order to provide and consent to sexual favors. Now, this is where it gets tricky because when she tried to tell her story to say what happened, you touched on it earlier. They said she put herself in this position. Because, she requested a driver, like an Uber or Lyft or something, went to the location, and in her assumption, based on the messages and the funds, she was supposed to meet with one individual, do whatever she was supposed to do, get paid, and go home. That's what she was consenting to. But when she got there, they, put a gun on her, and it was more than one individual. They didn't plan on paying her. And she ended up at the end of the night pleading for her life and having to take it from more than one person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's where it goes from consensual sex to now being a rape victim, right?
Yeah, like she was misled.
I definitely agree, yeah.
Like purposely misled. You know?
It was like a trap.
Exactly.
Definitely. That was a setup.
So like, how is it your fault that somebody set you up?
That's not her fault.
I mean, I know it's not, but I'm saying that people are talking about you put yourself in that position. Like, but how is it her fault? Like
because she out here hoeing, basically.
Yeah.
They're saying, why would you live that lifestyle and not expect someone to do that to you? Like, once again, people are pointing at the victim, saying like,
yeah, it's a lot of victim blaming going on.
That don't fly to me. Like, no, she had agreed to do one thing with one person, and she didn't ask to be attacked. She didn't ask to get a gun put on her. She didn't ask to plead for her life. She didn't ask for none of that shit.
Right.
So,
at all. And it doesn't make it okay either. Period. No. It doesn't matter what she was consenting to. It does not make it okay.
And at any point, if somebody want to change their fucking mind, they have every right to do so.
Exactly.
And we have a job and a due diligence to do in ridding our society of this rape culture because it's been so prevalent for so long. It's time for people to stop taking ignorance as an excuse and start taking accountability for their actions, whether they're right, wrong, or indifferent. And man up, apologize for what you did, and right your wrongs. Period. Exactly. Nobody is opposed forgiveness. I mean, or nobody is. What am I trying to say? I said opposed. I meant nobody is too far from forgiveness. Is what I was trying to say.
Got it. So, with that being said, if anybody has any questions or wants any information on rape and sexual assault and things of that nature, or you or somebody you know was raped, or you just want to get more information or further clarification on what rape is or what consent looks like and how to be as safe as possible, even though at the end of the day, like we've been saying, you can mind your fucking business. And if somebody's going to attack you, they're going to attack you because they have ulterior motives. You guys can go to, there's rape hotline information. So I have a phone number here. You can call the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 800-656-4673 or visit online.RAINN, that's RAINN.org to learn more information. And RAINN stands for Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. Please, God, give us
wrap it up. Go ahead,
topic, wasn't it?
Comment in the description below. Let us know if you guys have any questions or if you guys want to help us out with some topics. Feel free to comment and throw your ideas out there. Do us a favor and join us on all social media platforms. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and subscribe to all the podcast content. And remember, guys, we are My Bad Man.